Vietnam, the Mongols, one tiny nation against the greatest army on earth. What happened next would shock the world. By the early 15th century, Đại Việt had been under Ming occupation for 2 decades. The Ming dynasty, powerful and vast, sought to absorb Đại Việt into its empire, exploiting its resources and erasing its sovereignty. Yet, from the mountains and villages, a resistance was growing. Lê Lợi, a wealthy landowner turned rebel leader, emerged as the face of a people's struggle for freedom. His uprising, known as the Lamson Rebellion, began in 1418 with only a handful of followers. Over the years, however, he transformed this scattered resistance into a disciplined army capable of challenging Ming rule. The key to this transformation lay not only in the courage of the fighters, but also in the reforms and strategies Lê Lợi and his advisor Nguyễn Trãi implemented. Lê Lợi understood that conventional battle would favor the Ming, whose armies were larger, better equipped, and more experienced. Instead, the Lamson leadership emphasized mobility, deception, and psychological warfare. Farmers and blacksmiths were recruited, trained, and turned to soldiers. Weapons were crafted locally with bamboo spears, crossbows, and fire weapons adapted from Chinese designs. Mastered the terrain using the dense forests, mountains, and rivers of Đại Việt as natural defenses and ambush sites. One of the most revolutionary elements of their strategy was the empty fort or ghost city tactic. And Nguyễn Trãi, a brilliant strategist and writer, advocated the use of illusion to manipulate the Ming forces. Rather than defending every village and fort, the Vietnamese would abandon them, leaving the enemy to march through silent lands. The eerie emptiness created an impression of weakness and fear, luring the Ming deeper into unfamiliar territory. In reality, this was a calculated move. The further the Ming marched, the more vulnerable they became to ambushes, supply shortages, and exhaustion. By 1426, the rebellion had grown into a nationwide movement. The Lamson forces captured key fortresses and began besieging Dongquan, modern-day Hanoi, the main Ming stronghold. In response, the Ming court dispatched 2 massive armies in 1427 to rescue their garrison, one under Liu Thong, marching from Guangxi in the north, and another under Mach Thon, advancing from Yunnan in the west. Together, these armies numbered over 100,000 men, by far one of the largest invasion forces the Ming had ever sent to South. Lê Lợi and Nguyễn Trãi prepared carefully. They understood that defeating these reinforcements would break Ming's resolve and force recognition of Đại Viet's independence. The plan was bold. Avoid confrontation with superior forces, instead stretching the enemy thin, exhausting them, and finally striking in terrain chosen by the Vietnamese. At the heart of this plan was the valley of Chi Long, a narrow pass in present-day Lamson, surrounded by mountains and forests. The strategy relied on spies and scouts to track every Ming movement, while villages were emptied in advance of the invaders. 1427, General Liu Thong led an advance force of about 30,000 Ming troops into the Chi Long Valley. He was confident of a swift victory, believing the Vietnamese resistance had collapsed. The valley, with its tranquil landscape of rivers and lush hills, seemed calm, but the silence was deceptive. Lê Lợi had positioned thousands of troops in hidden encampments along the ridges, while others disguised themselves as peasants or retreated, further reinforcing the illusion of weakness. As Liu Thong's army moved deeper, the Vietnamese struck. Ambushes erupted from the forests, arrows raining down, cavalry charging from concealed positions. Trapped in the narrow valley, the Ming formations broke apart. Liu Thang himself was killed in the chaos, a devastating blow to Ming morale. What had begun as a confident march quickly descended into slaughter. By nightfall, much of the Ming vanguard was annihilated, their banners trampled into the mud. The disaster at Shillong was only the beginning. With their general dead, the Ming forces retreated in disarray. The Vietnamese relentlessly pursued them, harassing supply lines, cutting off reinforcements, and striking whenever the enemy attempted to regroup. Further west, the Second Ming Army under Moc Than also found itself unable to advance. Beset by ambushes and attrition, it too was forced to withdraw. The climax came at Xuong, where the remnants of Ming forces, battered and leaderless, attempted to regroup inside a fortified city. Believing the walls could protect them, they underestimated the determination of the Lamson army. Lê Lợi ordered a relentless siege. Trenches were dug, watchtowers built, and every road cut off. Supplies ran dry, rivers were blockaded, and no messenger could break through the encirclement. Day after day, the garrison grew weaker, their morale shattered by hunger and the echo of war drums outside the walls. At last, unable to resist any longer, the Ming defenders surrendered. Tens of thousands of soldiers were either killed in battle or taken prisoner, and what had once been a mighty invasion force was reduced to ruin. The annihilation at Xuong erased any hope of Ming recovery in Đại Việt. By the end of 1427, the Ming court recognized that further campaigns would be futile. Weary of years of costly war, plagued by unrest at home and humbled by repeated defeats, they agreed to negotiate. What began as a desperate gamble in the Lamson Mountains had now transformed into a sweeping revolution. The Ming dynasty was forced to acknowledge Đại Viet's independence, bringing 2 decades of occupation to an end. More than just a military victory, it was a triumph of will and strategy, proven to the world that even a small nation